I can't believe that Alaska is right in front of us. It's Alaskan mountains, Alaskan ocean. It's pretty crazy. Just a few days ago, we crossed the imaginary line into Alaska, having sailed hundreds of nautical miles in the wet and cold up the coast of British Columbia, Canada. We're now arriving in the historic town of Ketchikan. This is the first port of entry as you enter Southeast Alaska from the inside passage route, and one with a very intriguing history.
It's where both men and salmon came upstream to spawn.
Before we can continue on our journey north into Alaska's icy waters, we'll need to top up on our fuel supply. We do need to get fuel of all different sorts. And we've timed our arrival perfectly to be at the finish line for North America's longest human and wind-powered race. The only one of its kind in the world. This is so cool! Join us this week as we wander the iconic wooden streets of Alaska's first city and meet the winners of the world's quirkiest ocean race. Upon our approach to Ketchikan, we're not only greeted by a pod of playful orcas, but a fleet of fishing vessels, float planes, and massive floating hotels, all of which it would be wise for us to give way. We're just approaching Ketchikan right now. We're entering the harbor. There's lots going on, cruise ships and float planes and lots of little runabout skiffs. This is the first port of entry as you enter Southeast Alaska from the inside passage route. There's lots going on here. It's where you have to check into customs. We've already been checked in.
CBP has cleared us through the Roam app, which is amazing because that means we don't have to go anywhere physical for somebody to come on our boat and go through our bilge.
So we don't need to go through that process, but we do need to get fuel of all different sorts. Fill up our propane, diesel, and petrol for the dinghy. And we want to check this place out. From what I've seen, it's a really cool little town. It's really colorful, historic seaside community. I don't know how many people live here, but it seems to be pretty big. There's 2 huge cruise ships docked at port right now. We haven't really seen that since we left. Well, we haven't really seen that at all, really. Known as Alaska's first city, being the first port of call after crossing the border, Ketchikan is home to approximately 10,000 year-round residents. But during the summer months, its population skyrockets, with over 1 million people spilling off cruise ships, flooding its downtown historic district. No roads will lead you here. It's accessible only by air or sea, which pretty well explains all the hecticness approaching port.
Ketchikan, surprisingly busy little place. The marine fueling station, petrol dock, very conveniently located on the entrance to town, very easy to get onto. Those guys are awesome, rocking it down there. And now we're just scooting through town. Beautiful little kind of cottage style built into the hills, kind of just like layers of buildings and boardwalks and roads. It's pretty cool. It is super busy here though with all the marine traffic. There's tugs and barges and fishing boats, float planes landing left, right and center. A float plane recently ran over a boat down in Vancouver, and now I'm like petrified that every time they're coming into landing, I'm like, oh no, what's going on? Where are they going? Am I in the way? I don't want to be at fault here, but like, holy shit, I would not want to get hit by one of them. Oh, there's one taking off right now. Holy. Anyway, we're just going into the marina here on the north end of town. We've got a berth for the night. We're gonna hoof it around town, explore it by foot, maybe go get some microbrewery beers, and yeah, we'll go see what Ketchikan is all about.
Eagles.
Tons of eagles here. It's pretty cool. There's eagles everywhere, just cackling up a storm.
So we spent the night here on the marina in Ketchikan. We're sort of in like the industrial part of the town, so we're a little bit far removed from the touristy side of things, but there's float planes taking off every couple of minutes. There's like a shipping container sort behind us, and there's just like runabout skiffs, people coming in and out and fishing. There's sort of like a lot happening. Slept really well though. We ran around town this morning doing everything that us dirtbag cruisers need to do. We had to do laundry, get ice, bathe. So we took showers, hot showers, which was really nice. And now we're gonna set out and explore the unique town of Ketchikan. Pretty excited because it's like a pretty interesting place. Very colorful, it has a lot of history. So we're gonna go hoof it around town and go check it all out. Rather than walk through the congestion of the industrial district, we decided to take the scenic route. So we're gonna walk through this forested trail, which apparently will give us great views of the town of Ketchikan from above, and then it'll drop down into the historic district. So yeah, let's go for a walk in the woods. Hopefully there are no bears. Hopefully we won't see one back here, but we'll definitely be on the lookout for those big, vicious mammals.
The sign says that this trail is not maintained. I don't know about that. It looks really maintained to me. It's like 2 foot wide and crushed gravel. Maybe that's Alaskan's version of unmaintained. I'm gonna take the steep path though.
Some nice big trees in here.
Yeah, some really nice big cedars in here. Very gnarly. I'm not the best climbing shoes.
Once a bush kid, always a bush kid.
Always trying to climb onto burls. Now this here, big cedar, we call these a western red cedar in Canada. I don't know what they're called in Alaska, but they're exactly the same tree. This one's nice and old, good big burls on the bottom here. Love it. Gnarly old guy.
This is a beautiful tree.
Beautiful tree.
You spy the cruise ships.
Can't see much through the foliage, but there's more cruise ships. Oh, okay. I thought it was a rooster that sounded like a child, but it was actually a rooster. Definitely a chicken.
Your sick gymnastics routine.
Yeah, welcome back to the floor routine, guys. Not the first time I've done that on a log. Cruise ships are so freaking huge. We're just seeing one come by now from the trail up here, and man, it's just like watching a hotel move by. They're absolutely massive. There's just so many of them up here. It's like where cruise ships come to like date each other. You know, it's like speed dating for cruise ships. They just touch the dock, hang out for 5 minutes, and then bugger off to the next one. Crazy. Ketchikan is a major cruising port for cruisers like us, but also cruisers like them on the big cruise ships. There's like 4 cruise ship berths, and there can be up to what, like 20,000 people off those ships in town at any given point, which I think is like 3 times the population of Ketchikan itself, just like coming in, hopping off, swamping the downtown, and then just hopping back on the ship and disappearing again. It's bizarre. It's the craziest phenomenon.
Well, this is the viewpoint as promised. Pretty high up there. It's really nice. You can see the marina, the airport, the whole industrial section that we skipped over, and then like all the residential kind of coming up the hillside. It's pretty big. So this would be like half of Ketchikan, and then behind us, where the trail will come down, is the other half of the town. The trail's lovely. There was a lot more big trees than I was expecting. So that was really nice. Lots of ferns and greenery. You could still hear the city down below, but you were sort of like removed, tucked in nature. So thought was really nice.
All the way down there, right at the end of the marina, with all the small boats, that's where our little Uinta is. It's like big boats up here, starting with the cruise ships, and then we progressively go through the super yachts, the fishing trawlers, the regular sized boats, and then us, second to last finger, right down the end with like people's runabouts and skiffs. This part of town is called Newtown. Not really quite sure, but I could hazard a guess, but that back in the day it was the newer part of town from the Creekside area. All the houses are really smushed together. There's like boardwalks that connect them and stairways, and it seems like pretty cool architecture.
I'm feeling really nostalgic because this place is reminding me so much of my home in St. John's, Newfoundland. Just the colorful little houses, everything's built up on pilings, these like boardwalks connecting houses that are basically built on rock. And there's all these like narrow little alleyways between them, and you sort of feel like you're like walking into someone's driveway. And I guess technically it is their driveway, but you can totally walk through. Very reminiscent of Old Town St. John's.
It totally reminds me of the Gut in Newfoundland. For you newfies out there.
Yeah, I took James there a couple years ago, and so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, reminding me so much of home. It's crazy. I've never been to a place like that before.
It's really crazy to notice. I didn't realize this when we were walking around earlier, but all of these buildings along the front road here, they're all on pilings. The road, everything, like the water comes all the way under the main road, under the first set of houses, and then you don't get onto actual land until you get back into these terraced houses here in Newtown. Super cool. There's boardwalks everywhere, interconnecting little staircases. Really cool to see.
A colorful community built on pilings, this old frontier town has an interesting history, steeped in fishing, bootlegging, and Alaska's most infamous red light district. Ketchikan Creek, flowing through what is now known today as a National Historic District, was once a prolific salmon stream, serving as a summer fish camp for Tlingit natives before the town was colonized in the late 1800s. While its salmon canneries have come and gone, its history remains steeped in the fishing industry, and after the discovery of gold and copper in the region, colonial interest in the area really took off, followed by extensive logging that continued throughout the 20th century. Today, tourism is Ketchikan's major economic driver, but interestingly, its #1 industry was once prostitution.
This is Creek Street, Ketchikan's historic red light district. It's pretty cool. All the houses and boardwalks are on pilings above the creek. It's where both men and salmon came upstream to spawn.
This area was a flourishing red light district during the Prohibition era. Around the mid-1920s, there were over 20 bawdy houses on Creek Street alone. The working women were rather successful, high-regarded entrepreneurs, frequented by traveling men looking for some smuggled Canadian whiskey and a little company.
There was a whole lot of working ladies in here up until about the 1950s, where prostitution was outlawed at that point, and some of them, well, all of them pretty well got the boot. It's really cool to see all the houses up on pilings along the creek, and it makes me imagine what like all the other communities along the coastline must have been like back in the day, the Ocean Falls and the Nemus of the world, and just all the little towns that just came and then disappeared. And it's really cool to see that this is still intact and a part of the historical area of town.
It's pretty neat that they had a red light district on this like really prolific salmon river where men and salmon came to spawn. It's hilarious. Cool, kooky place. There's lots of like gold nuggets, Alaska's largest gold nugget collection, rare gems, things carved out of bones, moose jerky, unique hot sauces, you name it. You can pretty well get everything here. It's a little overwhelming. There's lots of people. There's lots of people off the cruise ships right now, but it's like, it's a pretty cool place.
Great, I love that.
Are you feeling thirsty?
I'm feeling thirsty. Let's go to Arctic Bar. It's a classic home. We just gotta go get a beer on the deck.
Okay.
Arctic Bar is a must stop if you're ever in Ketchikan. We got ourselves a cold beer. The Ladies Auxiliary Club is making pulled pork sandwiches for Father's Day lunch. It's incredible. This place is really cool, and I think we'll definitely be coming back to Ketchikan.
Cheers. With sightseeing and kooky dive bars ticked off our list.
Very nice.
Tickling your fancy?
It is indeed, yes.
We were eager to escape the hustle and bustle about town and get back to the wild. But we had one last highly anticipated attraction to attend. With the first place team just a day away, this is so cool!
we decided to hang tight and tackle an important boat upgrade.
While we're waiting around for the R2AK to come in, we're thinking it might be a good time to make our boat a little bit more racy, a little bit more sporty, a little easier to sail. You went to, she was made back in 1979 and all of the sailing controls are kind of from that period. There's some really old V-cleats and there's no clutches, everything's cleated off. It's amazing that we even have self-tailing winches. So today we're gonna take some of these clutches. I just got the spin lock and we're gonna put a clutch on the main halyard and then I got a double clutch which we're gonna run for my reefing lines, which is gonna make controlling the main and reefing the main so much easier to do while we're sailing. This is our main halyard setup. So like many people's halyards, they just come straight down the mast. They run around a winch to help tension them, and then ours is just cleated off on this big cleat at the base of the mast. It basically ties this winch up to be dedicated just for the main halyard, and that's really annoying sometimes when I'm reefing because the reefing lines also come straight down the boom here, and it's really hard to get tension on them when there's a bit of pressure on the sail. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this clutch here and we're gonna install it somewhere up here above the winch. That way when the main is hoisted, we can take the halyard off the winch and use the winch to run our reefing lines off it as well. I think that's a little high, hey? I feel like about here feels natural. We've just kind of worked out where our clutch is going to be. I think we're going to put it right here somewhere in this mast area. It's kind of the spot where the clutch naturally fits in terms of the run off the line from the mast down to the base of the winch here. There's less than 10 degrees deflection, so I think that'll be good, and I think it'll be at a good height where we can then wrap up the line and tuck it away somewhere, and the clutch is nice and easily accessible here at face level. Okay, so we're just going to start putting the threads into the hole we just cut. Tapping a hole is the process of cutting threads into the metal so that you can thread a bolt into it, which is what we're doing at the moment. Tapping threads into a hole is a game of patience, and you basically want to just turn the tap like 1/8 of a turn, 1/4 of a turn, and then back it off, and then just slowly cut the threads in and clear the burrs out every turn, and that way you get nice, even, neat threads that bolts like to go into easily. I think when you're cutting aluminum, you want to make sure you use a lot of WD-40 to lubricate the metal and the cutting tap. It's a game of patience. You're not trying to rush it. You don't want to break the threads because you really only get one shot at it. Otherwise you have to move the hole again. So that's what we'll do. Just take our time and slowly cut our threads in until the tap passes through the whole thickness of the mast nice and easily. And just like that, we have put our threads into our hole. It's pretty cool. You kind of just like created a knot, basically, wherever you want it to be. So let's bolt in the clutch on the top bolt, and then we can mark out exactly where our second hole is going to go, because you only really get one shot to get it straight. So perfect. Look at our fancy clutch. Like a real boat. Now we can drill and tap the second hole. There we are, all Loctited and bolted in, and I think that's pretty freaking skookum. I'm going to be looking forward to be hoisting and lowering the main and reefing and just having better controls on the boat. So sporty.
Speaking of sporty, checking the race tracker, we could see that the first place team was quickly approaching Ketchikan. So we packed up our project and quickly moved Uinta to the finish line to catch their exciting arrival.
This is so cool!
The R2AK is North America's longest human and wind-powered race.
Rules of the race are intentionally as simple as possible. There's a starting line in Port Townsend. There's a finish line in Ketchikan. There's $10,000 for a first prize. There's a set of steak knives for a second prize. And the only rule is that your boat can't have a motor on board.
The real prize is simply completing the course.
It's got to be the only race that I know of where the winner is probably the least interesting thing about the race.
A relentless, engineless adventure race. Rounding the corner towards the finish line at Thomas Basin, Team Malolo was full send, sailing downwind with the nearest competitor over 90 miles behind. Sailed and pedaled by Canadian skipper Duncan Gladman and crew members Paul Gibson, Becky Kelly, and Matthew McAtee. After 5 days and change, 15-hour stretches on the bike, and some of the most violent seas they've ever sailed in coming across Dixon Entrance, Team Malolo grazed the dock mid-afternoon, crossing the finish line to ring the bell, becoming the first all-Canadian team to win the R2AK in its 8 years running. It was a pretty momentous occasion on the dock, and we were stoked to be a part of it. What motivates folks to undertake something like this?
Just good memories of the adventure. I think that's going to be what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, for me, I've always watched it, and to get invited to join these guys this year was just super exciting for me because I followed it since 2015.
Really perseverance, so yeah, when you invited us to come along, I thought it was a great idea.
Dragon is a 35-foot custom-built Cochrane-designed carbon fiber trimaran, built in 1997 with a custom set of Steve Cochrane hulls that utilize a canting adaptation of an F-31 mast, lifting foils, and a cabin made from a sailing skiff turned upside down and glassed in, sporting top-of-the-line sailing gear with the propulsion of a pedal drive. And the crew did a lot of pedaling. With little wind, they biked for 15 hours straight around Cape Caution, an area known for its strong winds and stormy seas. Biggest congrats to these legends for snatching the cash prize. We can definitely appreciate what it's like to make it up here through the worst of it all. After the fury at the finish line, it was time to drink a beer and enjoy our last night in Ketchikan. The next day, we hightailed it out of Ketchikan on a steady breeze.
And we're sailing. Ketchikan is behind us, and in front of us is the majestic southeastern Alaska archipelago. Miles of inlets to explore, anchorages abroad, fish to be caught, and glaciers that come down to the ocean, which is what we're aiming to get to. Not today, but some point in the next little while. We're heading north up into Glacier Bay, and we're hoping to see some ice. It's going to be super wicked. We're currently out here in Clarence Strait, just north of Ketchikan. Bit of a spicy entry. We weren't quite expecting it to be as windy out here as it was, but we've got the second reef in on the main. The head sail's pulled down to 100% on the working jib, and we're just careening along here on a beam. It's absolutely marvelous. There's full sunshine, a couple of cruise ships coming and overtaking us, but it feels so good to be heading north again. Ketchikan is a super groovy little town, eh? A super cool Ketchikan. Love the history, love the architecture. Does kind of smell like jet fuel. Something about the float planes taking off constantly, the cruise ships coming through, the jumbo jets landing, all the fishing boats and all the fishing traffic coming up and down and everywhere. Kind of just smells like diesel. But that's cool because you can get everything you need in Ketchikan. You bet you can.
Sailing out here, folks. Right out of the gate, we're in at least 20 knots. We've got 2 reefs in the main, the head sail out, and we're just cahooning along at a comfortable 6 knots. Got a little bit of swell, probably more from the wind itself than the Pacific Ocean, because we're sort of heading up the channels now. We're making miles north. We're heading up into southern Alaska. It's sunny all day. It's not that cold. And the sailing's been really good so far. It was so cool to see the first place boats coming over the finish line. Wish we could have stuck around for all of them, but it's time to make miles. We're continuing up the coast and we're pretty stoked about it.
Well, we're just up here. We're just gonna shake some reefs out. We've gotten back into the channel and away from this openness of Clarence Strait, so we've turned a little bit further downwind, and the second reef just isn't quite getting us enough boat speed, so we're gonna throw a little bit more main up here and see if that helps out.
Well, we shook the reef and then there was sort of a momentary lapse in wind and we were like, oh, we were sort of setting up for wing on wing. And then the wind just totally flipped around 180 degrees and now we've got it on a beam on the other side, which is pretty convenient because now we're able to point up this channel pretty good. And it's not so swelly here. It's a good breeze. We're doing about 4 knots. Sort of a nice evening wind. The nice thing about Alaska is it doesn't really get dark here. Sort of around 10:30 or 11, it's like dark-ish, and then around 4 a.m. it's completely bright again. So yeah, you can kind of sail all night, which is cool. I don't think we'll do that tonight, but maybe if the wind stays like this.
It's pretty crazy how shifty the winds are here in the inlets and up in Alaska, and just like the Pacific Northwest in general. Like, it's bonkers to think that we were just sailing, you know, a beam to 20 knots blowing from the south, like with the second reef and a reefed in head sail, and now we've got the full canvas up, the wind's shifted 180 degrees and coming from the opposite direction, so we're still on a beam, but we're on the other tack, still heading in the same direction in different wind conditions. It's bonkers. It's probably some localized effect of the wind rolling over mountains and up inlets and diving and ducking and dipping around. But yeah, really keeps you on your toes. Release the red and the blue halyard. We've pulled out the head sail so that we can go wing on wing. It looks like most of the wind that was out in the sound has now kind of funneled around, and we're basically going dead downwind as it comes up this channel. I imagine it'll peter out slowly as we continue along, but for now we're kind of still moving along at 4.5, 5 knots, which is about as well as anybody can do in the conditions, I would say. So pretty stoked. Pole looks a little haggard, still getting used to how to do that, so you know, let me know down in the comments how we're doing and if you got any tips for us on how to pole out a head sail.
I still can't really get over the fact that I'm looking at the shorelines of Alaska from my own sailboat. Sailing here feels like a momentous achievement on any occasion, but for us, it's a little hard to believe. Just 5 years ago, we didn't own a sailboat, didn't know how to sail, and had absolutely no clue how we were going to get here. It really is a dream come true. It's all to say that if you set a goal, you really can get there. With a little hard work, determination, and naive perseverance. We're endlessly inspired by this incredible community out here on the water. And we hope that by sharing the journey, you might feel inspired to take steps towards whatever it is you've been dreaming to do.
Oh, hey there.
Well, it's been a absolutely beautiful evening of sailing. For the past 3 hours, we've pretty well been goose wing with the pole out, going like 6, 7 knots. We've got a knot of current in our favor, which is really nice. Just like a beautiful light wind. We've got waves on the stern, so we're just sort of surfing along in this gentle Alaskan sun.
It's gorgeous. This land of eternal sun is magic. This has just been beautiful, just beautiful.
Last night we didn't go to bed till 1:30 in the morning, so I think we're on like a different nocturnal schedule now. Our melatonin production is in steep decline, and we're not feeling tired at all. James and I were thinking we could probably do this all night.
And we might just keep on doing it all night because honestly it gets a little bit dark for like 2 hours, and then we can just keep on sailing. And if the wind keeps up like this, we're hauling ass and we're heading north, so like why would you stop? Why would you let it go right now?
The fear is that we'll head into the anchorage that's near us here and then come out tomorrow and there'll be no wind and we'll be motoring. So
that's it. You really don't want to give up a good breeze when you have it in favor of motoring the next day.
No.
So I think onward, hey?
Yeah. So there's an anchorage here. We might pass it and then we can aim to the next one and sort of see how we're feeling. That's another 16 nautical miles. At this rate, it'd just be like 2.5 hours, which we definitely have that much daylight and we seem to have that much energy to be able to do it. So yeah.
Let's keep making miles while the making miles is good.
It's around this time that things took a little dip into the deep.
things got interesting there for a second. We had the drone up, we were getting the most beautiful shots, and then the drone just started doing a nosedive. I don't know if the wind, I don't know, the wind just took it or pushed it down, or if it had a malfunction, but it decided that it wanted to end its life here in this beautiful channel. And I don't blame it, because it's a really beautiful place to be at the moment, so.
Well, I'm super bummed because I previously had a completely clean flight record, and now I can no longer say that.
Kind of a bummer. It's actually the first drone we've lost. It always stings a little bit when, yeah, your camera goes in the water and you can't get it back.
Who knows what happened? It just wouldn't gain altitude and it just went. Really nice shots though. I hope we can get low quality ones off my phone. So that we can at least witness and watch it and replay it and show it to all you guys, which is a great time to ask you, if you haven't already, please consider becoming a Patreon, because we're throwing expensive electronics into the ocean all the time out here, and that stuff costs us a lot of money to bring you really cool drone shots. So if you like drone shots and you like drone shots of sailboats in beautiful places, then consider becoming a Patreon and helping out our production. Thanks so much, guys.
Biggest thank you to our patrons for supporting the continued production of these videos. A little goes a long way to keeping humble channels like ours alive. Thank you for your consideration. We'll see you next time.